As you guys probably saw in the thumbnail, we picked up a 1966 Ford Mustang. All right, so I want to talk over a couple topics on this project car. The first topic I want to talk about is like the history of my experience with old classic and muscle cars. My first car when I think I got the car when I was 14 years old. I got a 1967 Mercury Cougar like this one. I'll show you an image right here. And it's a classic car made by Mercury. It's basically the luxury version of the Mustang for 1967. It was the first year that they made that car, and I basically restored it from this point all the way to this point. I'll show those pictures. My dad bought it with the rebuilt engine, and pretty much I had to rebuild everything. I had to change the gas tank, the brakes, the tires, suspension, the wheels, interior, everything. It was not a ground up restoration, but it was on a budget that I can build that Cougar. So that's how I first got my hands wrenching on cars, and I've been wrenching since I was 14 years old all the way to now 35, so that's 20 years of wrenching, which is actually pretty impressive now that I think about it. But anyways, we picked up the 66 Mustang. That was the actual car I wanted when I first got my first car. I asked my dad, I wanted a 66 Mustang, and he said, well, I got you a 67 Cougar. That's what we can afford, and that's what I ended up getting. So let me tell you the story. I want to back up. I think it's very crucial to this build. Basically how I got bit by the bug and became a car enthusiast and a car guy. Probably, I'm gonna say early 2000s to like late 90s. I think I was an 8th grader, still going to elementary, ready to graduate and go to high school. I became a freshman and I wanted to start working on my car. I wanted to get a car so I could drive. And my dad kept asking me, what kind of car are you gonna want to drive to school? I didn't know what I wanted. At the time, he was gonna give me like a CRV Honda, and I was like, dude, I don't want that. It's like a chick's car. But whatever. So what ended up happening, I used to skate a lot, and I would go over to my cousin, which was like 3 or 4 years older than me. And at that time, he used to skate too, and I was wondering why he quit skating. So I went to his house, I started hanging out with him, and I noticed that he bought this car. The car that he bought, I didn't know then, but he bought a 1974 Chevrolet or Chevy Nova with the 350. And it was an interesting build. It had a roll cage in it. It had slicks and traction bars, and it had a fiberglass front end that would flip open, which I always thought that was weird, but it actually looked really good. He was actually building the engine at the time when I went over to his house. I thought that was really interesting. I spent a day with him, and he started showing me that he was going, he was going to mechanic school and stuff to learn all this stuff. And I literally stopped skating and just going to his house every day to work on this 74 Nova. One day, his buddy that lived 4 houses down from him had a 1966 Mustang, just like this one, and it had a 302 in it. I don't remember the specs of the engine, but anyways, it was a built motor, manual. I think it was a 3-speed factory. He kind of drove over in his Mustang to where we were working because he was going to pick up my cousin so they could go to the trade school. Well, at the time I was a freshman, and my cousin said, hey, I got a bail. Do you want to go with us, or do you just want to bail? So I ended up going with my cousin and his friend, and I remember jumping in this car. The car only had back seats. It didn't have the passenger front seat. It had the driver's seat, but not the passenger seat. So I remember sitting in the back. My cousin went in first, and then I went after him, and I sat on the rear passenger side. So there was no seat. I can see the cluster. I can see the shifter. I remember him changing the radio. He was playing Offspring. I still remember to this day clearly. And I remember we took off. And as soon as we took off, I remember just smelling the fumes and the oil, and then the vibrations that it made in my chest as he drove the car. I'm like, dude, this is crazy. It really made an impact. I didn't know nothing about cars yet. It really made an impact in me. As we were driving to that trade school, this is, like I said, either probably 2000, 1999, 1998. Whatever Corvette was at the time was a brand new Corvette, rolled up next to us at a stop at an intersection with lights. And the light was red, and he got up to him. The guy started revving to my friend. And my friend's like, all right. He's like, he's down. So I remember him looking, we're at an intersection, him looking to the left. And he waited until like the stop sign or the lights on the left went to yellow. As soon as it went to yellow, I remember he revved his engine, like ready to pop the clutch on the car. And he was holding at 35, 4 grand RPMs. I don't remember what it was. And I remember the other car was doing the same thing. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And I remember he just popped that clutch. As soon as he popped that clutch, it pushed me into my seat. I could feel the G-forces, and I could smell the fuel. And I remember the front end just lifting. Like if you've ever been in a boat, you see them go like that. That car did that. And I remember it squealing and pitching to the side, hooked up, and we took off. And I remember he slammed second gear, that thing spun the tires, and then he slammed third gear, and we're probably going 60, 70 miles an hour on a residential street, which is crazy now I think about it. And we just dusted that brand new Corvette, and at that moment, I was just hooked. I mean, hooked. Like, that's all I could think about. All I could think about is a 1966 Mustang with a V8 and being manual, black interior, Wimbledon white. So that being said, I finally got one of my dream cars of my bucket list. Would I prefer a fastback? Yes. Can I afford one? No. Can I afford a coupe? Yes. This one came up on Facebook sell thread, and I was looking at it for a while, and they had dropped the price. I think the guy wanted close to $6,000 to it, and they had dropped it like $500. So I noticed the car was sitting there for a while. It was during Christmas time, December, so nobody's really buying cars. So I said, you know what? I had a few $1,000s saved up, and I contacted the guy. I said, hey, I'm really interested in your car. Can I come check it out? Is the price negotiable? He said yes. So I went and checked it out. I fell in love with the car. This car is super straight. I could barely find any rust. I think I found rust in two spots. The battery tray, which is pretty normal, and then in the rear passenger back seat, and then on the bottom of it, which is surface rust, which could be fixed really easy. That's probably the most expensive, is body work and restoration on rust and replacing panels and all that, because you have to pay for labor. So this is a really good foundation to build a car. The other positive thing is that the guy that he bought it off before was actually prepping the car to get it painted, and he's an actual, from what he told me, he was a body guy. So I got the car. I got it for another gentleman that was actually, he's a restorer. He restores Mustangs here in Texas. He bought the car for his wife. I think he ended up buying a fastback. He found a good deal that he couldn't resist, bought the fastback, and then there was no need for this car. I guess they were going to build that instead. So they needed to get rid of this because it was taking up space where the Mustang would be sitting. So then I bought it. I bought the car for $5,150 is what I bought it for. The 1966 Mustang was a very popular car. So they made this car in 1960. I can't really get a straight answer, but out there from what I've read, there's 1964 and a half. Some people say it's still 1965. There's a 1965, 1966, and then the body change. This is the 1966, so it's the last year of this body style. This Mustang came in a couple versions. It came in a 6-cylinder. It came in a V8 with a 2-barrel and a V8 with a 4-barrel. And then it came with the it's called a hypo engine, which is high performance V8. It was a 289 4-barrel. And then there was also the Shelby versions, which was the GT350. They had a GT350R, and they had a GT350H for Hearst. I forget. It was like a rental car. So this car, when it was produced, it was super popular. It was meant, for the masses. They created it so they can sell a lot of them, and they wanted, a car for the young generation, and it was a cool car to have. I believe that Ford had contacted Carroll Shelby because they wanted a performance car, so they contacted him. And the story, from what I've heard, is that he didn't want to work on the secondary car, but they convinced him to build it. So that's when they made the GT350 Shelby, which is one of the coolest cars in our American history, in my opinion. There was a series called the Trans Am America, I think it was called, or Trans Am USA, I forget. But a lot of car manufacturers will enter their cars, and they would make them look like the cars that you could buy at the showroom, but they were highly modified. And I think the rules were they could either change the engine. It had to come with an original engine or original suspension. You couldn't modify both. And I think Carroll Shelby picked to add bolt-ons to the engine. You just couldn't do internals. Do bolt-ons to the engine with the hypo engine, and do up all the suspension and the braking is what they did to the GT350. So they changed this front suspension, the shocks. They had adjustable shocks, I think springs. They lowered the A-arm position. What else did they do? Transmission was different. They did a rear end, and there was even talks of them doing rear independent suspension, which is crazy for doing that in 1965. So 1965 Shelby and 1966 Shelby are two different animals. The best way I can reference them is like thinking of an Evo 9 and an Evo 10. The 1965 was an Evo 9, which was a more track rough car. And then the Evo 10 was a more muted car. Still had performance, but it was a more comfortable for the masses, is what a 1966 was. They changed a lot of things, because I think the 65, the few differences it had like straight glass pack exhaust, which is basically straight exhaust, so it's super loud. It had a Detroit locker diff, so when they would make their turns, it's like in a 240, you would have a welded diff, like, it would be skipping because it's trying to keep up. It wasn't like a clutch style two-way differential. Little things like that really bug people on the sale, so they thought they should make it a little more muted. So then they made the 66, which is a little more muted. So that's kind of the history on the Shelby. There's a lot more into it, but I just kind of want to dive in a little bit so you guys can have the history on that stuff. Okay, so what's gonna be the build for this car, and what's gonna be what's the idea that I have in mind? I'll start posting pictures here so you guys get an idea. Basically, what I want to do is, one, I've always wanted a Shelby, a GT350. I can never afford, I probably will never be able to afford that car because that's a few $100,000 to buy that car. Two, I'd be scared to drive it, and that's not what I want. I don't want a show car. I want a car that's pretty, but I drive it. You know, if it gets chips, I don't care. If it gets wet, I don't care. It's a driver's car. It's a car that I want to build to have fun. So the way I want it to look and perform is a car that I can, you know, drive on the weekends, take my wife to car shows, go out and get a burger in it, go grocery shopping if I want to in it, just have some fun in it. I want it to handle good, I want it to brake good, I want it to be a manual. This car is an automatic. I do want to make it a 5-speed manual. So what we're gonna do is, there's two options out there. Is either you get the old stuff that came originally with the car, which was a 3-speed top loader or a 4-speed top loader, or you can option out for a T5 conversion, which is basically a late 80s, early 90s 5.0 Mustang, because those came with, I think, 302s in them. I think he's got to change the bell housing for these, and they bolt right in. There's kits out there, very expensive. You're talking about $4,000 for that swap, but that is something that is number one on the priority. Number two on the priority is to get this car painted. It is going to get painted, and we're going to go Wimbledon white because that was that car that I fell in love with my cousin's buddy. And it's gonna be a tribute to kind of how his car was. I want to relive that experience. It was just such a cool, and it's been embedded in my head for so long. What I want to do is I want to build it like the Trans Am racing cars like these. Here are some examples so you guys can see what I'm talking about. I want to put some 15x7 torque thruster D's wheels. They're American Racing, very classic. Put some, they're called Goodyear streak blue tires. There's some vintage, basically slicks for the road. They're like Hoosiers. I'm gonna get those because those are gonna make it look vintage. I want to make it look like a vintage Trans Am racing car is what I want to make it look like. Slash, if Shelby made a coupe, it's gonna have little accents of the coupe. It's gonna have some of the modifications as a Shelby GT350, and we'll get deep into that later in the series. Why I picked the Mustang, there's a few things. I wanted a 240 SX, S13 or S14, but it's just so hard to get now. People are asking ridiculous amounts of money for them. The engines are going up in price. The SR20s are getting expensive. The 1JZs are getting expensive. People want them. Second thing about it is the youth out there. I know the demographic that I have is in their, 16 to like 35-year-old is my demographic. And I really want to motivate the younger crowd out there. I want these cars to still be around when my son's my age. I want them to be around, and I want you guys to see that it's something simple to build. It's something that you can do. These are a lot easier to work on than an old 89 Japanese style car. And I want to share that with you guys. I want you guys to start seeing the potential that these old classic, call them classic cars, muscle cars, whatever you want to call it, can do. Really wish I could motivate you guys to kind of dig in and start picking these guys up and get them from getting crushed or rusted out or being out on a barn somewhere and restore them. These Mustangs are still affordable, guys. They're gonna start going up in price soon because they're getting harder and harder to find. I've been looking. These top notch, you're gonna pay $20,000 to $30,000. In the condition that this thing is, you'll probably pay $2,500 to $6,000 is what you're gonna pay for the condition of this. Okay, so for this build, we have a budget for this car, and I want to do this through this series. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna try to do this. I'm gonna start doing like text here where I add up the totals of what we've done with the build so far. I don't know if I'm gonna put it here. I'm gonna put it on a spreadsheet. I don't know. I think a spreadsheet would probably be the best. But the bill for this car, including car, it was $20,000. I'm gonna raise it up to $22,000. So the budget for this build is $22,000. From the body to being like what I dream and what I vision, that's gonna be my budget. I'm thinking I'm gonna get this car built. If everything goes right and there's no interruptions with life or me or anything like that, I think I can get this car up and running pretty cherry, anywhere from 6 to 12 months. I think that's what it's gonna be. But we got a lot of restoring to do. We're gonna be restoring the interior. We're gonna be restoring the suspension, the brakes, glass, engine, The whole deal, transmission, rear differential, leaf spring, shocks, the whole 9 yards. I'm in talks with body shops to get the car painted. I am going to pick not the cheapest, not the most expensive, but somebody that's fair in the middle. And another thing that I want to make sure is that they let me drive down there and film some content while the car is getting painted, because I think that's very critical. And I want to document step by step of this entire build. So that pretty much covers the whole build and the idea of this build. I'm really hopeful that I motivate you guys to build something like this, and I really hope that you guys enjoy it, because I'm gonna give it my 100%. The young crowd, you might be intimidated because it has a carburetor and all that stuff. Dude, I was building this car when I was 15 years old, a car like this. I was doing brakes, engine swaps, all that. Back then there was no YouTube. I had to read a manual like this. I had to pick up a manual like this, and I would read the torque specs and how to do this stuff. I had to do this before YouTube. Now there's YouTube. YouTube is a great source to learn how to work on cars and how to build cars like this. And there's a big support for these cars. A lot of the footage and a lot of the stuff is kind of old, 7 years old, so it kind of looks cheap. It's all like 720p or standard definition. There's not too much 4K stuff out there. I know TJ Hunt picked up a fastback. I think it's 66 or 65, I'm not sure. And he's putting a JDM motor. I'm not sure 100% what he's putting in there, but I remember seeing that. That's cool. Hopefully that motivates more people to pick up these cars. CJ Pony Parts, they also have really good quality videos that kind of explain. They do skip some things where they don't tell you the torque specs or the size of the sockets, which kind of sucks. I'm gonna try to bring that to you guys. And they're in a shop and they kind of have all the tools that you need. And I don't know, I don't like kind of watching that kind of content because we don't have all the tools, you know, we have what we have. And they have like a tool for a spring that you're gonna use once. And I just think that's ridiculous to make content like that. It's cool that you have that, but I think to relate more to you guys, you should do it with like the tools that your most basic guys in their garage will have. Thank you guys for watching. I love you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. If you guys are interested in this build, we are gonna do a walk around and see what the Mustang came with. Don't forget to subscribe to stay caught up on this build.